Alexa, what is Pi Day?
Pi Day is an annual celebration of the mathematical constant pi. Pi Day is observed on March 14th since pre-1.
Shut up.
Museum, the Exploratorium. Celebrations often involve eating pie or holding pie recitation competitions.
Well, that didn't go well. Good morning, March 14th, 2023, 9 o'clock straight up, and welcome to Pi Day. I don't think I have this thing working right yet, because I forgot to turn this on before clicking to go live, so it's not right. In the chat room, Nick Poverman. Happy Pi Day. I was going to tell a joke about Pi Day, but it just kept going on and on and on. Pi Day is celebrated on March 14th around the world, because that's the first three digits of pi, 3.14. The Greek letter pi is the symbol used in mathematics to represent the constant, the ratio of the circumference of a circle to its diameter. Martin Hogg, hi from Scotland, 6 degrees plus some snow. Martin, is it okay for me to actually show your email? I'm going to respond to your question. I want to be sure it's okay to show your email. Your address does not show up when I go look at the email. I'm going to go double check on that. We're going to have a little fun with that, with your permission, Martin. Mike Wojcik, hello everybody. Selden Ball, good morning, 27 degrees Fahrenheit with snow on the ground but not in the air for now. So does that mean he's here? Yeah, Martin Hogg's here. It showed up in chat right there. Hello, Lana Dro. Robert, good morning, good afternoon. Brian Lightfoot, what is the metric equivalent of pi? Well, see if I can find out here. Alexa, what is the metric equivalent of pi?
From sauce.com. To obtain a value for pi in the LP metric, you can integrate the arc length for the upper half of the LP unit circle.
Yeah, because I understand what that is. No, I don't think so. Dennis, NVIDIA drivers just came out and it's Microsoft Day. As you've seen in recent instances, I'm always postponing drivers. Martin says, yes, that's okay to show his email. Hi, Doug and everyone else. So we're going to go look at Martin's email and respond to his questions. Zoom this up a little bit so you'll be able to see it better. Yep, that all looks okay. Says, hi, Doug. I have a couple questions. Hope you can help with. Is it possible to alter DDR3 to fit a DDR2 socket using a fine hacksaw to provide more RAM? We'll go ahead and deal with that question, and then after we're finished with that, we'll go on to the next question. So I'm going to take this in two parts. Is it possible to alter DDR3 to fit a DDR socket? I'm going to say yes. It is possible to do that. Some of you are going to jump on me and say, no, you can't. Yeah, sure you can. Watch this. Here's the DDR2 RAM, what it looks like, and the DDR3 RAM. The main difference here being is that the slots are in a different position, right? So what he's proposing to do is on the DDR3 RAM, take a fine hacksaw and cut a slot right in here. So he says, is it possible to do that to fit it into a slot? And I'm going to say yes. Let me go over here and show you. Actually, on my desktop here, I have a DDR. Let's see. The two is on top. The DDR3 is on bottom. So we want to use a hacksaw, fine hacksaw, to cut into here. Well, can you do that to make it fit in the slot? I'm going to say yes. You can cut a slot right there, so it'll fit into the socket. However, if you want to be able to clip the side clips, I think you're also going to have to make these sockets on the side wider, because the side clips on DDR3, oops, I said that wrong. DDR3, yeah, the side clips on DDR2 are wider. You can see those, how they're much wider. So you have to make those wider too. I don't think you're going to be able to do that with a fine hacksaw. Maybe you can, but it'd be really difficult. I think it would be better to use a file to do that. Now, That much out of the way, let me come back to part B of his question. Part B of the question is to provide more RAM. Well, that implies that you want to be able to turn the computer on after putting the memory in these sockets. And I'm saying no, no, that's not going to work. And what does ChatGPT say to have it? So the first part of the question is just, can you alter the sockets to make it fit? I'm saying, yeah, I think you could. I haven't tried it yet. Some people are worried that I'm going to try it. What does ChatGPT say about that? I asked ChatGPT, is it possible to alter DDR3 to fit a DDR2 socket and find hacks how to provide more RAM? I was surprised to find that ChatGPT did come up with pretty much the same response I did, worded a little differently. It says, no, it's not possible to alter DDR3 module to fit into a DDR2 socket using a fine hacksaw or by any other means. However, backpedals a little bit down here. DDR3 and DDR2 are different types of memory with different physical specifications and electrical characteristics. This is the main culprit to not being able to turn the computer on and have it function. DDR3 has more pins than DDR2, and the notches in the modules are in different locations. We saw that. Notches are in different locations. Even if you were able, now here's the backpedaling, even if you were able to physically modify the DDR3 module to fit into a DDR2 socket, the electrical differences between the two types of memory would prevent it from functioning properly. Now, my initial response in my mind before I brought it up in ChatGPT included this next paragraph. Attempting to modify the memory module in this way would almost certainly damage it beyond repair. Yeah, of course, the DDR3 module be damaged beyond repair could potentially damage the socket or other components on the motherboard as well. It is important to use the correct type of memory for your system to ensure proper performance and prevent damage. I was also thinking that you're probably going to damage the motherboard if you turn it on after you put that memory in place. I'd be even worried about plugging the computer into power, because motherboards do take on power when power is present before you've even turned the computer on. So yeah, yikes. Now let's consider, why would a person be interested in doing this? Well, he gives us purpose right here, that's the purpose, to provide more RAM. Wants to provide more RAM by taking a DDR3, which is a more recent, more valuable memory, and put it into a DDR2 socket, so thereby assuming that you have DDR3 on hand and you want to add more memory to your older model computer instead of buying a DDR2 memory, which here we see the prices for that $10, $17, and they're fairly inexpensive. And I think if you're going to try modifying a DDR3 to fit it into DDR2 socket in order to avoid spending that much money and risk damaging your motherboard, you shouldn't be using a computer. Now, I don't know why Martin is asking this question, because it's I don't know why he's asking the question. I'll just leave it at that. Let's see if he tells us something there. Martin, ask Alexa for the value of pi. Yeah, how long will Alexa go on? Martin needs additional training from Dennis. It'll fit. Question is, will it work? No. Answer is no. Yes, but it will not work. Agreed, it will not work. We're pretty convinced of that. Now, would one of the Dougs around here go to the extent of actually trying that and seeing what happens? Obviously on a disposable computer. I've asked all of the Dougs around here. None of them have volunteered to do that. I think it would take a substantially significant Amazon gift card to motivate one of the Dougs to try that and demonstrate on camera what happens. No, that is not a suggestion. I'm not suggesting somebody actually do that. No. Did that go over Doug's head? From Brian Lightfoot. Which one was he referring to? I don't know. I don't think there's any joke in there that I missed. All right, so we're all caught up. I think I'm all caught up on chat there. And was that everything I wanted to do? Oh, that's not all of Martin's email, though. That takes care of the DDR question. Then he says, how do I change a default app in Windows 11? It was easy in Windows 10, but looks more complicated in 11, as I am not familiar yet with 11. but we'll probably need to learn. I don't see that it's more difficult, so I have Windows 11 fired up here in my virtual computer. And if I go into File Explorer, for instance, come to my Downloads folder, I downloaded a PDF file here. So I can right-click on it, and here's Open With. I can come to Search Another App, and I could select another app from here. I don't have Adobe Acrobat Reader on here, but this is looking identical to the way it is in Windows 10. So I could choose Adobe Acrobat Reader from here, put the check mark to always open the app always open that type of document with the different app. Now, if I come to the Windows key and type the word default, there's this applet called Default Apps, and we can come into here and choose a file type such as PDF, and click on PDF, and we see that's currently going to be Microsoft Edge. I can click on this button here, or probably just click over here. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so here we get the same panel for choosing a different app. The other thing that people are interested in doing is changing the default browser. So if you press the Windows key and type default browser, do we get into a different, let's see, there's a search for default browser. That might be the place where you're thinking that it's more difficult, and I didn't take a look at this previously because Microsoft is a little more stubborn about browsers. So here's Microsoft Edge as a default app. When I click on that, then I can select all these different extensions and what default browser to use for them. So changing the default browser is more difficult in Windows 11 because you have to do it for each of these specific extensions. That might be what Martin was referring to as it looking more difficult. I'm going to minimize this and minimize my virtual computer, and I think I've covered that question. How do I change the default app? In Windows 11 it was easy. Windows 10 but looks more complicated. Windows 11 as I'm not familiar. Yeah, so I think I've covered that as far as I can think of to cover it. So is there any other comments there? It will fit. Answer no. Will work. NVIDIA driver installed on 2 machines for Dennis. And then Jim, a little more stubborn understatement. What was that in regards to? Was that in regards to thinking one of the Dougs would experiment with modifying the DDR3 to fit into a DDR2 socket? Oh, I think maybe that was regarding Windows 11. Was that stubborn? Yeah, I'm not sure if that's what Jim was referring to. Okay, so then in regards to Windows 11. Yeah, default browser is the only thing that I think is more stubborn for changing in Windows 11. Then the next thing to go to, I don't remember if I have comments, channel comments. No, I need to go to the right panel there. Nope, don't have anything there. What else do I have to talk about today? It seems like I had something else flagged to talk about, but maybe not. And I do not see any show from Ken Stout this morning. I dealt with emails that were saved. No, I don't have anything else to talk about. We might end this early then. Looking at chat to see if there's any other questions or comments. There was something else I was thinking in response to my discussion yesterday about pulling out some content from one of the Windows Daily Show on a weekly basis and make that a separate standalone video to attract other viewers. Oh, I remember what it was. When I was showing you those numbers yesterday for my 2-year-old video, that's the highest viewed video in the last 28 days. It's this one over here. Bring it up if I scroll down here. Repairing a dead HP computer, 1,425 views in the last 28 days, even though that's an almost 2-year-old video. Judging by the number of new subscribers in the last 28 days, only 11 new subscribers in the last 28 days, that tells me that out of these 1,425 views that video got, they do not result in new subscribers. So I don't feel a real strong pull to this idea of, on a weekly basis, carving out a new standalone video to attract viewers. However, the argument on the other side of that is that this video does not promote the Windows Daily episodes at all. So if I do cut out a piece of content from one of the Windows Daily episodes once a week, I would also tag on some kind of promotion in there, or advertisement by myself. I will be the spokesman for this channel, thank you very much, and let people know that there's daily live shows to respond to users' questions, viewers' questions, because that video does not say anything about these live shows, because I wasn't doing these live shows back then. So that's the additional comments regarding that idea. Nick says, whatever happened with your client and his issue last week? Oh yes, that was the chiropractor with ChiroTouch, where the problem was his computer became really slow after the office experienced a power outage. And I have already reported the results on that in Saturday's show, but I'll go ahead and give another summary of it because it's a fair question. And maybe this is asking for more follow-up. What happened there is I wound up discovering, by doing a macro reflect image restore, the oldest that I could get, that it appears that what actually caused the problem was not the power outage, but that power outage coincidentally was on the same date as a Windows update. The second Tuesday of the month in February is when that power outage occurred. And it was on Wednesday that he discovered that the computer was running so much slower. There was one particular function in ChiroTouch where it was very, very noticeable. So I restored his computer to the oldest backup that I had, which was in December of 2022, and he is still using that. And that was okay to restore back to there because he doesn't store any data on that computer. I paused the updates for a week, so they're going to start triggering again in a couple of days. My intention is to connect to his computer remotely later this morning because he does not normally work on Tuesday mornings, and I will try to delay those updates for a couple more weeks, and then at a convenient time I'll go play around with installing individual updates and see if I can track down which update is the culprit. So that is the update for that. John Williams asks, if a CPU does not have integrated graphics, does that mean it has no audio as well? I don't. How would you know that? The only way you would know that is if you were able to start the computer up on it with a CPU that does not have graphics without a graphics card. You can't launch Windows without something that performs graphics. So if you have a CPU that does not have integrated graphics, which would be an AMD CPU, one of the models that does not have integrated graphics, which is most of them, and then you would have a graphics card installed. So you're going to launch Windows, and the question is the audio playing through the graphics card or is the CPU involved? I don't see how it would ever matter, or how you could ever prove that or test that. I suppose the device manager. In device manager, you could check audio drivers and perhaps tell whether that audio driver is reliant on the graphics card. Well, here's another way you could do it. If you could find a graphics card that does not have audio, then the audio would have to be managed by the CPU. If you have a CPU that does not have integrated graphics, then perhaps you would not have audio. I think some of the other people around here might know the answer to that. And I don't think any of the Dougs around here would go exploring the answer to that question. Bobby Warren says, hey Doug, sorry I'm late. I'm in the car. I am running your live stream on my 5G, and I assume you're just listening to it and not watching it. However, you could be in your car parked somewhere, up on the makeout lookout over the river near your home. You might be parked up in the car at the makeout spot, and then you could be watching the video, and that would be okay. I'm running your live stream. Okay. Nick says, thank you for answering my question. You are welcome. Martin Hogg suggests DougBetts were Windows Help Desk or Windows Help Desk by DougBetts. Is that what you're suggesting as a video title or as a change to my channel? That essentially is the impact that I would like to have with this channel. I'm not sure that I want to call it Help Desk. That doesn't appeal to me a lot. Bobby says, I am not driving. My twin sister is. All right. So you can be watching, and that's an alternative of how you could be watching while you're in the car that I did not mention. There are also Intel CPUs without integrated graphics. Yes, I am aware of that. Not many of them. None of them have audio. None of what have audio? None of the... I'm assuming you mean none of the AMD chips have audio, or none of the CPUs have audio, but the CPUs that have... Maybe audio might... I think audio just comes out of the motherboard, doesn't it? If you don't have an audio board... Well, I think I've seen graphics adapters that have audio connectors. Then Seldon Ball, my understanding is that built-in audio support is provided on the motherboard. Okay, there you go, not by the CPU. I think that is the case, because on the motherboard we have the audio connectors. That doesn't necessarily mean the CPU chip doesn't have to have audio capabilities, but I think it's all the motherboard. In the olden days, HDMI audio had to be provided by a jumper from the motherboard to the graphics card. If you're using the HDMI in the graphics card, that gives you audio and video over one cable. Is the audio dependent upon the audio capability of the motherboard, or is the audio circuitry, the audio signal, actually provided by the graphics card? Or is the graphics card just channeling the audio from the motherboard through the HDMI? I don't know. I'm sure some people know that off the top of their head simply, but I've never had a need to look into that. If you have a monitor with built-in speakers, what about, okay, the HDMI graphics would provide the audio to your monitor. Yeah, that makes sense. John Williams, it's i3-9700F would be the one that that does not have graphics in the CPU. And probably the F is the designator that says it doesn't have graphics. Dennis says, I think most motherboards have integrated audio, but you need a discrete graphics card to see anything. Yes, that makes sense. So if your CPU does not provide graphics, you're not going to see anything on screen, and I doubt you're going to hear anything. Would the integrated audio on the motherboard, when you have a CPU that does not have graphics, and you don't have a graphics card, would you at least get a BIOS beep or some error code signals? And would that be reliant upon the audio circuitry of the motherboard? Does anybody care? Jim's about ready to click out of the video if he hasn't already. Rand Israel, no CPU has audio, integrated graphics or not. That makes sense. I would think separate process from the motherboard. That makes a lot of sense. Bobby has a Mac. That wasn't Bobby asking the question, was it? Was it Bobby asking the question about audio? I don't know. Yeah, I'm not gonna. There's Bobby. Oh, he's driving. He has a Mac. His sister is driving a Mac, a semi-truck, I guess that is. Bobby's sister is driving a Mac semi-truck, and Bobby is watching this live stream. Yeah, that's right. Rand Israel, the audio is coming from the motherboard can be routed to the HDMI output. That makes sense. Al Neo, you would need audio from the motherboard regardless of the audio output capabilities of your monitor. I think that's right on target. Modern HDMI graphics cards incorporate audio circuitry. NVIDIA provides separate audio with their drivers. Okay, now how about, we've talked about HDMI, but DisplayPort also channels audio, correct? Think Hello from, okay, oh, hello Think. Computer, not a truck. Yeah, I think I realized that. 9:24. Well, how about we shut this down? How can I update it? Bobby is asking, how can I update the Mac? I remember I have updated my Mac in the past. I have an iMac that's so old at this point, it will not do any more updates. So I'll search that. How can I update Mac OS? I don't remember from the Apple menu in the upper corner of your screen, choose System Settings or System Preferences. This should give us a good answer right here. Use Software Update, System Settings, System Preferences, Software Update in the window. They're showing us here what it looks like, and it would be Upgrade Now. They use the word Upgrade in place of the word Update, and it'll automatically select what version of the operating system. What happens if we ask ChatGPT that same question? So I'll Control-C, copy that, come over here for a new chat, and paste that question into ChatGPT. How can I update Mac OS? And it gives us, this is something that I do like about ChatGPT, is it gives us numbered steps. Not always right, so be aware of that. It might not always be right. Now, if there's something about these steps that are not right, you can say, for instance, I don't see software update in step 4. Now, of course, I'm lying to it. I haven't actually looked. So let's see what he says, what chat says about this. He or she, I don't know. Do I stump ChatGPT here by asking a totally invalid, incorrect question? If you don't see the software update option in the System Preferences menu, it's possible that your Mac is actually a Windows computer, is running an older version of Mac OS that doesn't have this option. In that case, you can check for updates using the App Store. That is possibly a valid answer. It is possible that somebody's trying to do that on on an Apple computer that's older than when they started doing things that way. All right, that's enough of that. Yes, DisplayPort does as well. In fact, it's preferred by many GPUs. All right, I think that's enough. What time is it? 9:27. There's no show from Ken Stout. So does anybody have, if you have a show you wanted to redirect people to, go ahead and put it in chat. Of course, you have to be a moderator in order to do that. If you'd like to send a question to me by email, you can use the email address on your screen right now, DougBetts@LiveWindowsTraining.com. You can also leave a question as a comment on any video, and you can ask your questions in the chat room. Hope that's been useful. Have a great day, everybody. Pi Day, don't forget it. Tell your coworkers, tell your friends this is Pi Day, and see how many blank deer in the headlight stares that you get back. Adios.